Hi, I'm Jon Peters, and this is the new desk I just built for my art studio. In this video, we go downstairs into the wood shop and build a cabinet for the end of the desk. Well, now I'm going to build the cabinet that's on the side of the desk. And before I do anything, I like to do a quick sketch of the cabinet I'm going to build and then make a cut list. Here's the drawing of my desk, and here's the sketch of the cabinet that I'm about to build. And the first cuts I want to make are my sides. And I have two sides at 11 1/4 by 28 3/16. My two sides are cut to length and width, and now I'm going to use the table saw to cut a rabbet joint in the back of the sides to accept the back of the cabinet. Now that my rabbet joint is milled into the sides of my cabinet, I can measure from my shelves. So I'll measure from the front of the cabinet to the edge of the rabbet joint, and that's the width of my shelves, 11 inches. Now that my shelves and my sides are cut, I'm ready to assemble the cabinet. And the first thing you need to do is mark where your shelves are going to go, and I've already done that. And the way I like to do it is mark one side of the cabinet and then put the cabinet face to face with the inside of the cabinet facing up and transfer my lines from one side of the cabinet to the next. Once my lines are transferred, I use a square and I'll square across. Once I have my lines on the inside of the cabinet where the shelves are going to go, I transfer a line and basically split the plywood shelf in half, and that line then goes on the outside of the cabinet, and that's where I will pre-drill with a countersink bit so I can attach the shelves with a screw. Each shelf is going to be attached to the cabinet side with 3 screws, and right now I need to measure and mark where I will countersink and pre-drill holes for those screws. So I measured in 1.5 inches from the front of the cabinet, 1.5 inches from the back of the cabinet, and the center of the cabinet, which is 5 5/8. With the sides marked, I'm ready to drill my holes, and I'm using a pre-drill countersink drill bit. I'm assembling the cabinet with 1 5/8 inch long drywall screws. And I've used a quick grip clamp to hold the shelves in place while I screw the cabinet together. The left side of the cabinet will be up against the wall and no one's ever going to see it. But the right side of the cabinet will be facing out towards the room. So I'm going to want to fill these holes. And to do that, I'm going to make walnut plugs with a special drill bit. This is the drill bit that I use to make the walnut plugs, and this is just a scrap piece of walnut. So if we go over to the drill press, I'll show you how it works. Now you can use a regular handheld drill with this drill bit also, but I find I'm more comfortable using the drill press. Then with a small screwdriver, they should pop right out. Now I'm applying a little wood glue to the plug, and then I'll just tap it into place with the hammer. I'm also paying attention to which way the grain of the wood in the plug is going, so it goes in the same direction as the grain in the cabinet. It's a good idea to make sure you clean all the glue off the cabinet with a wet rag before it dries. I've allowed the glue to dry overnight, And now I'm going to cut the plugs with my handsaw, being careful not to scratch the cabinet. I'm using masking tape to help protect the cabinet while I cut the plug. The plug is almost flush with the surface of the cabinet, and to bring it down the rest of the way, I'm going to use 120 grit sandpaper with a sanding block. Now I'm making the parts for my face frame. The face frame covers the end grain of the plywood and gives the cabinet a finished look. To attach the face frame, I'm using wood glue and 1.5 inch long nails in my nail gun. And I'm nailing right through the face frame into the plywood of the cabinet. And I always put the sides on first, and then I'll cover the shelves afterwards. Now I'm applying the face frame to the shelves. Some people call it banding the edge of the plywood too. But this is where you really want to make sure you get a nice tight fit. Otherwise you'll have a gap between your side rail and your shelf. And I'm just bringing the edge of my face frame so the top of the shelf is flush. I have about 1/4 inch overhang under the shelf. Okay, well the cabinet's finished, and the last thing I need to do is attach the back. And what I'm using for the back is this really nice piece of teak and willow. Now this is a piece of plywood that I bought years ago when I did a boat repair, and I had just enough to do the drawer for the desk and for the back of this cabinet. So I'll attach the back of the cabinet, and then I'll bring the cabinet upstairs and attach it under the desk. I've measured and pre-drilled holes in the back of the plywood, and now I'm going to attach the back with 1 inch long screws. I am going to use some screws to hold the cabinet in place, but as you can see, the weight of the desk is also going to do some of the work. Now, I didn't mention this when I was building the cabinet, but I made this part of the face frame wider, and that's because I had to scribe it to the wall since I have some cables running behind that box there. Alright, well that's about it. I've got the cabinet installed to the edge of the desk, my drawers in place, and that works really well. I'm real happy with that. The computers are up and they work good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.